Chiswell Productions.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's Coil Creep here at Juicewell Productions. Today we're going to be doing a Rewick tutorial on some fused Claptons. Most coils, especially high-end, artisan, fancy, whatever, those builds you see on Instagram, those builds that I do, those builds, people complain about the price a lot, but what they don't realize, most of them are made with high-end, awesome wire, and if the coils are cleaned and rewicked correctly, most people will get anywhere from a month to 6 months, even longer out of them. Average is about 2 to 3 months, especially with aliens. But a set of fused, 2 months easy if you rewick and treat them right. So today we're going to rewick some fused. We're going to be using Native Wicks Platinum, awesome cotton, and a Coil Master build kit. Everybody dive down and let's check it out. So with my preferred cotton, the Native Wicks Platinum blend, beauty is it'll come in a 15-foot strand of Egyptian cotton, but when you tear it in half, like so, you end up getting 30 feet of cotton. But then to rewick normal RDAs, I cut about 2 to 3 inches off, and that can be ripped in half again, and now rewick about 2-3 millimeter coils. So you end up getting about 60 feet of cotton in the Native Wicks package. So once you have your cotton cut, grab the mod and atomizer you're going to be using. I suggest taking the batteries out of your mod first, always, before you rebuild or rewick anything. Got some pretty nasty juice, definitely in need of a rewicking. These are some series fused Claptons by Coil Creep. Love the Coil Master build kit because the bent tip needle nose tweezers I just grab, and your cotton shouldn't be wicked overly tight, so it should come out fairly easily. Sometimes if it's still really wet, it'll be kind of expanded, so I'll grab the scissors and cut one end off. Helps pull it out easier. Repeat for both coils. And voila. The next step that I don't recommend doing every time you rewick, if you're rewicking every 3 days or so, but maybe every other time, or if your coils are super gunky, if you're using very thick or very sugary juice, is taking them over to the sink and dry burning them, running them under a tiny bit of water. You don't want to do it every time because it will decrease the life of the metal and start to make it weaker, but it also helps to get them a lot cleaner, especially when you're using a heavy juice or something very sugary. So let's head on over to the sink. So once you're over to the sink, I recommend just a small stream of water. You don't need it to be flowing. You don't want any water to get inside of your mod. You don't want to soak everything. You just need a little tiny bit of water. I will fire my coils until they glow red. Sometimes they might catch on fire, and I'll give each coil a tap to the water, shake it off, fire my coils again. You'll notice I'm firing unevenly sometimes. It's just because one part got more saturated with water. I'll give them usually another touch to the water, shake them off, give them another fire. They're glowing from the inside out. should have some nice, clean, gunk-free coils. Alright, so once you're all cooled off and everything, take your mods back out, or put your mods back in again, and I give them a fire to make sure everything's firing evenly. Sometimes pulling the wick out can jostle the coils and make things a little screwy, but everything seems to be firing evenly, so there's no adjustments that need to be made, and we can start rewicking. It said got your little half piece of native wicks, about 3 inches long. Just tear in half again. I found these are just about perfect for a 3mm coil. Sometimes we'll need to take just one more little sliver off. Take it, I try to handle the center of the cotton as little as possible. Roll a tight twist on the end. Slide it through. I always make sure my wicks have a little bit of resistance, but not so that they're so loose that they're flossing inside the coil, but also to the point that they're not so tight that it pulls the coil when you go to move it. Then I just give it a little pull and take off each of those ends. Flip it around, do the other side. Pull off a little sliver. Roll into the corners tight. And stick it through. That one's a little tighter. So, remove another little sliver. Pull it through. And I also like to pull it all the way almost to the end, but then to pull it back through. That usually just ensures that both sides are about the same thickness. I then take my scissors, make sure I'm nice and cleaned off from when you pulled and cut your previous wet wicks. I like to measure to the bottom of most addies, so I will pull the wicks down and look for the base of the RDA, and then that's usually where I'll cut. That usually gives me plenty of wick, but not so much that it's choking off any airflow, but it's also got enough for juice saturation. I just find that usually that's about the perfect amount. If you have a deeper juice well and you measure to the bottom of the addy, you usually end up with perfect wick. A shorter juice well, measure to the end of the base of the addy, perfect wick. Cut off 4 sides. Next thing I do, the sharp bent needle nose tweezers work great. This is just a little computer tool that I have, and I only give a small bit of combing to the wicks because you don't want to completely fray apart the cotton, because then it won't wick properly. But if you do get it a little spread out with those fibers, it does tend to wick a little bit better. Any of that little excess that got pulled to the ends, I just kind of take and pull off with trying to touch the cotton as little as possible. This little computer tool also works great for tucking my wicks in, so I usually get it. I give it a little twist in, Gonna tuck down on both, push the center down, flip it around, do the other side. You don't want to be cramming your cotton in, because the more you cram it and the more bunched up the cotton is, the less it's going to be able to wick the juice and it's not going to be able to flow as well. But then you also don't want a ton of cotton like I have here. I've got it tucked in into the base, but plenty of room underneath the coil for airflow, but also a decent amount of cotton to hold juice. Nice and fluffy still. Boom. Got whatever juice you're gonna use. And I start by just applying straight onto the coils first. I'll dump a little underneath the coil for the cotton to start soaking up. I've also noticed that if you apply some directly to the coil, get a pretty good glob on there on both coils and give a quick burst of heat, it'll start pushing the juice through the cotton a little quicker and kind of feeding it all around. So I like to make sure everything's juiced up, but not to the point that I have standing juice in the base of my addy, but just so everything's nice and saturated. There's no more white cotton, it's just nice, saturated, with no standing juice that could leak. About like that, nice and saturated. Cotton's full of juice, but it's not full to the point where if I tilted it, there's no cotton leakage or no juice leakage. And these are the series fuse Claptons, and those things rip. That's not even full power on the Noisy Cricket 2. That's only about 5.5 volts. So overall, I'll give a few more blasts usually. Put a little more juice on. Native Wicks has no break-in time pretty much. Killer flavor. Withstands heat a little better in my opinion. Lasts a little longer. Pretty much all I use now. Give it a little clean off. And let's go back up to the top. You're ready to vape. So there you have it, everybody. That's my way, one of my preferred ways of rewicking RDAs to get the most longevity out of your specialty premium artisan builds. Definitely every 3 to 5 days, maybe sooner if you're vaping a heavy juice or if you're anal like me. Best way to make your coils last the longest, get the longest life out of them, best flavor, you'll always taste your juice the best. Overall, just the greatest way of wicking in my opinion. Awesome little series build, wicking perfectly, juice is flowing. Thanks everybody, that's Coil Creek. This is Juice Well Productions. Keep vaping.